time, not the other way around, and they kept driving. They were shocked to see Jin-kil coming out of the truck instead of the director. Kim also arrives there and asks them to take care of Minji while he talks to that person. Jin-kil asks him who he was, to which he replies that he was an extreme parent who needed to know who was more of an extreme parent. The section chief comes in his way to stop him, but he takes him down with just one hit. He was furious and didn't want any more from them. The rest of the small fries attack him as well, but as expected, Kim takes all of them down in an instant. He told President Ju that they needed to have a talk. President Ju starts laughing because he thinks that Kim was the same as him. He would go to any length to protect her daughter just like him. President Ju reminds him of the things that he did wrong to him, how he pretended to be nice and was using his desperation for his public image. He had said many things to him that day. The way Kim raised her daughter in poverty, he called it child abuse and humiliated him in front of her daughter. President Ju offers him to walk under him and he would pay him 100 million won per month. Kim remembers how his wife's last wish was that he took care of Minji no matter what he needed to do in the process. She had asked him to leave everything behind and just take care of their daughter. Minji's father told him that they should resolve their problem man to man. Kim told him to set the rules and he would yield a bit. President Ju has had enough and punches him first with all his might. He starts humiliating him and threatens him, saying that if he were to refuse his offer and decided to go for revenge, he would make sure to make Minji's life a living nightmare with his power and money. And there would be nothing he would do that could stop that. Even after listening to all his threats, Kim punches him anyway, remembering what his wife's last wish was. Kim answers him what President had asked him before, that he was from anti-North Korean operative Baekdusan Unit 1, code name 66. He told him if he doesn't decide the rule, he would decide for him, and he challenges him to do one touch. On the other hand, Hyori was worried about his father and asked his bodyguard if there was any news. Just then, the bodyguard got a call, and the man on the other side of the call informed him that the section chief Nam had been passed out and he was in a very bad situation. They send more support to the location to support Chief Nam. At the location, Kim punched the president so hard that he nearly passed out just with a simple punch. But Kim stopped him from passing out and told him that it was his turn to him. This was the first in a Kim very long time President Ju had felt like this. This feeling of humiliation was too much for him. He got back up even after receiving such a blow to his face. He informed Kim it wasn't his first time dealing with someone like him and punched him again. While he was monologuing after just landing one punch, Jun hit him again in the middle of his smug speech. Kim knew the kind of person President Ju was. You make him fight until the moment he tires himself out. If you don't do that, you know that he will provoke you until the end. Right now, Manager Kim is completely trampling on President Ju's pride. Kim told him to hit him again as it was his turn to hit, making him even angrier. But the president calmed himself down and informed him that fist wasn't the only thing he could use. With all his connections in Korea, he could destroy him with just a phone call. That phone was worth more than his life. But before he could call anyone, Kim called some named teacher Hu Jeongji. This surprised the president, who was wondering whom he was calling. When the person picked up the phone, Kim asked him for a favor. He asked him to dismantle the Junyong constructions. Teacher Hu told him that he was not sure if he could dismantle it completely, but he could do something similar. The teacher asked him if he was sure about this, and Kim replied that he was. President Ju questions him who just called, and what did he do. Just then, he got a call from his legal team. Kim suggested he pick up the call and informed him that there were skies beyond their skies. President Ju was just baffled. The teacher told Kim no matter how close they were, they couldn't just do it for free. Kim agreed to work for him and earn him back for this favor. President Ju was on his knees. He didn't know what was happening anymore. While the legal team was informing him of what was going on, Minji woke up from her sleep. She didn't remember anything after getting into the truck. She saw her father talking to President Ju. President Ju hit him again in anger, asking him what he did to his company. Kim hit back, slamming his face on the bridge because they were still doing one touch. Now, thanks to President Ju, it was clear to Kim that he would do anything to be a prideful father from the inside, even if he had to become a monster on the outside. Seeing this, Minji couldn't stop her tears. Hansu requested her not to hate her father too much after this. He may be clumsy in expressing his love, but she was the only one he cared about. How could she hate him after she heard him say that? That day, she saw the bottom of her dad's heart for the first time. Her dad, who never gave a proper answer to anything she asked, actually really loves her a lot. Her dad, who looked indecisive, was actually a person who lived with great determination and endurance. She thought that her father didn't know her, but she was the one who didn't know him. To cheer her up and lighten her mood, Park Jin-chil asked her if he should tell her his father's secrets. Han-soo told him not to tell her that story, but Han-chul didn't listen to him, saying she needed to know everything about his father at this point. Minji was confused about what they were talking about. Han-chul asked her if she knew how they met his father, but of course, she didn't know about it. He told her how they were very different in the past compared to now. Manager Kim was born in North Korea, the most closed-off country in the world. One day, the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea's Major, Ri Yoon-gryong, came to his school to take students for social and physical education. He ordered the ones who were physically strong to come out and made them fight each other to determine who was the strongest. Sometime later, only one guy was standing while everyone else was on the ground, brutally beaten up. This guy was Park Young-kwon. The major chose him and he chose one more guy. We see a kid who was not letting go even though he was beaten pretty badly. The major was impressed by his tenacity and recruited him as well. This guy was Kim. He hated hunger and he would do anything to get out of that situation. That was why when he was young, he was fooled by the lie that they were going to pick members of social physical education, but he didn't know what was waiting for him next. He ended up being in a unit that nurtured spies to be dispatched to the south. When he first went to the unit, he barely remembered anything. All he remembered was his name was Kim. What he remembered was being called the number they were assigned, and Kim's number was number 73. Another thing he remembered was that he was beaten up until he forgot his name. That is how, in about a month, they forgot their first and last name. The training was hellish. Every day it was training that hung between life and death. They were being fed poison. They were underwater with their hands tied. They were shot right next to them during the night. At the end of such a training that hand between life and death, there were 8 people left. Park Young was sparring with Park Young again, but he still couldn't beat him after all this time. He keeps losing to him every time they fight. Because he lost, he was beaten by the trainer and was ordered to not eat dinner as punishment. He was roughed up pretty badly, but Park Kwong offered him his share of rice ball. But Kim refused to take it, thinking he was pitying him. Park Kwong wanted to help him because they were from the same middle school, but Kim attacked him and they started fighting again. It had been 3 years since they started training, and tomorrow was finally the day of their first operation. While the major was briefing them about the mission, Park Young told Kim how nervous he was, but this all would be over in just the next 3 days anyway. If they managed to complete this mission, the country said they will allow them to have a family. Park Young was determined to come back alive and have a family. At first, Kim thought this guy was disgusting, but as they endured that telling place together, somehow, Kim thinks of him as his brother. Kim asked him if he didn't even remember his name. How was he going to start a family? Park Young told him that his name was Kim. Park Young forgot his own name, but somehow he remembered his name. Kim was shocked to hear his own name, which he had forgotten long ago. That day, his eyes came to life for the first time. He found a reason to live. The next night, they were sent to a mission right away. As they arrived at their target location, they couldn't get in touch at the important moment and came to nothing. Kim told his brother about the situation. He decided to enter the villa first and capture it. They came bursting through the door, but they found an explosive on a chair. Unfortunately, it was a trap. His comrade died in front of his eyes. He yelled at Park Young asking if he was okay. Park Young assured him that they were not in much trouble even though he was heavily injured. His leg was detached from his body due to the explosion, but he wasn't making a big fuss over it because he didn't want to freak out Kim. He made fun of Kim for crying like a baby over nothing. Just then, the headquarters contacted them, ordering them to halt the mission and take their own life in the name of their country, so that the information wouldn't leak to the enemy. Park Young told Kim to not believe in any of the BS that they spout and live. It was his first and last request to Kim. Park Young died in his arms after his last wish. Eventually, he survived and was caught. He was handed over to closed military facilities. After some time, the Major of South Korea was interviewing Kim, but he couldn't find any answers he was looking for as Kim didn't remember anything about him. But the Major did know about his achievement and that he was an elite in North Korea. He asked the elite of South Korea if he could take him on. This guy was young Park Jin-chil, who was a rocker. There was no more information available on him. In Park Jin-chil's theory, the only way to kill was to fight with the intent to kill. He warned Kim to do his best if he wanted to live. Kim remembered what his brother had told him and what was his last wish. Park Young had a request. He had asked Kim not to forget him. If he forgets him, "There's no one who will remember him." To which Kim replies that there was no way that he was going to forget him even if he wanted to. They've been stuck together for the past 3 years. He was number 73 and Park Kim was number 66. He was going to remember him by all means. He told Jinchul that he didn't even care if he lived or died. He just wanted to fulfill his comrade's request, and he would do anything to fulfill that. Jinchul finds it a solid reason to live, the feeling of wanting to remember. He asked Kim what his name was, to which he replied to call him by his number 66. He took his brother's number instead of telling him his number, which was number 73. It was so that he didn't forget him ever. After some time, we see both of them out of breath and covered in blood. The Major's office was completely destroyed, so he ordered them to go fight outside. But Jinchul told the manager that he wasn't going to fight him anymore. He showed him his weaknesses many times, but he never came in. But even then, he didn't want to lose either. Jinchul realized it was his skills that were the real deal. As soon as Kim came in, he had already checked out all the edges. He had already instinctively memorized everything he'd need to fight in his environment. Before leaving, Jinchul suggested he keep what he had said to him in mind. After he was gone, Kim advised the Major to get rid of him because he was an idiot and was too soft. The Major informed him that they don't just go around killing people in South Korea. He even offered to teach him how to live like a normal human being. The Major was a friendly person, and as he taught him, Kim learned to live like a normal person in South Korea. It had been 2 years since then. Kim was now a part of the South Korean force. The Major assigned him to be a part of the Northern Maneuver, saying it was his chance to get back at his motherland that abandoned him and to prove his patriotism to the South. Then he would be able to acknowledge him as his son. But behind that friendly facade, there was a hidden reason. After the Northern Maneuver team left for their mission, an officer told the Major about the concern that the president had. He had expressed his concern about having a North Korean member within the unit. That's why the president wanted to see number 66 deceased after the completion of the mission, and the Major was completely fine with this. They arrive at the mission's location and are ready to move in. We see a North Korean Major who was planning to sell some top secrets. But before that, a bullet pierced through his head. They easily acquire the documents. Before moving on to their next task, they got orders from above to get rid of Kim. The soldier apologized to him, saying there were some people above who were uncomfortable with him. Moments later, the North Korean Pashort team entered the hideout, and what they saw shocked them. Everyone was down and soaked in blood except for Kim. He voluntarily got arrested. He was so tired of it that he wanted to give it all up, but thinking of his brother number 66, he couldn't do that. He was being interrogated and tortured, but he was still not opening his mouth. Just then, a senior officer comes there who immediately recognizes who he was. There was a rumor that he could kill anyone. This guy was the person who had chosen him as a candidate. He freed him from there and took him with him, saying he was his buddy from years ago. While they were chit-chatting, Kim asked him with his emotionless face why he made them forget their name for absolutely no reason at all, and that if he had taken them in, he should have taken care of them, not throw them away. He was clearly hurt, was crying, but he was showing no emotion on his face. The Major informed him that he was forced to do that. If he hadn't done it, someone else would have replaced him. But even then, he was sorry. He gave him a second chance to live his life as long as he stayed in the town. Ironically, the first taste of freedom he felt was in North Korea. It was infuriating and unbelievable at the same time. And this is when he met the girl of his life in that place. It was love at first sight. They soon expressed their feeling to each other, but his happiness didn't last long. The Major wanted him to get rid of someone. He informed Kim that the rumors of him being back were spreading like wildfire, and it was not easy to suppress them. Rumor has it that they were planning to get rid of him and his future wife. Kim understood the mission. He would kill for him, and in return, the Major would provide him and his wife protection. The man Major wanted gone was none other than the Supreme Leader's eldest son. But Kim didn't hesitate even for a second and took the job. At the same time, in South Korea's National Intelligence Service headquarters, someone else took this job as well. They told the guy that the eldest son had developed a nuclear weapon. That's why, for the sake of South Korea, he ordered Janchul to eliminate him. He was coming to Harbin in China for some business. This was their only chance to get their hands on him. And not just him. There was one more guy who was given the contract to eliminate the eldest son. It was Sung Hansu, the Taekwondo medalist. Due to the impossible nature of the mission, those three of them were about to meet for the first time. Kim arrived at the hotel where the target was staying, but he was there a week before him to prepare for his plan. He asked them for the rooms that were above or below the room the target was going to stay in, but those rooms were already occupied. Kim understood something was wrong. We see that those rooms were occupied by Jinchul and Hanso, who were already preparing for their mission. Not having any other choice, Kim took room 1406, which was the same room that the eldest son was going to stay in a week. The receptionist told him that he would have to empty that room within a week though. Kim knew they were listening to him and gave them a message. He told them that since their mission overlapped with each other, they should have a conversation so that they wouldn't interfere with each other's mission. He invited them to a nearby restaurant. Kim was waiting for them when he saw someone familiar. He immediately recognizes Hanchul and asked him what was he doing there. Hanchul made an excuse saying he was just there to meet someone and just happened to be in the same hotel. After that, Hanchul suggested he put down the gun that he was holding. He was not here to fight him. Kim puts away his gun and suggests he does the same. When Kim saw how much firepower he was carrying, he asked him if he had lost his mind. They both point out how their outfits looked super suspicious, but their outfit was nothing compared to how much Hansu's attire stands out. They immediately recognize that he was the third dude. All three of them have a drink together while pointing out that their first and foremost priority should be not to stand out. They both insulted Hankil's outfit. Hansu was done with all the BS and told them that he was there to eliminate the eldest son of the North's supreme leader, and he ordered both of them to stay out of his way. Jinchul felt as if his prey was being stolen from him and also stated his purpose of coming here and challenged them to stop him if they could. Hansu took this personally and started laughing. Then he proceeds to break the table in front of him. Their plan to lay low was a bust. Everyone there was now looking at them, including some gang members. They started fighting while Kim was just sitting thinking about what the major had told him. If this mission failed due to some outsider, they all be dead, including his girl. He suggested that they should decide somewhere else who was the boss once and for all. That way, no one would be able to interfere with the mission. But before that, they had something else to take care of. The gang of that area had surrounded them for causing chaos in their region. Without a word, all three of them understood the assignment. Just the three of them took the whole gang down within a few minutes. As they were about to fight among themselves, the cops came there and they had to run away. When the cops arrived at the restaurant, they found all of the gang members on the ground, but there was no sign of the three of them. 3 days after the incident, Kim was in the hotel again when Hansu also came there and sat next to him. Coincidentally, they were thinking the same thing, and these two were not the only ones who were thinking the same thing. Jinchul was also there. Hansu told them that it had to be him who got rid of the eldest son. They should just stay out of it, and their mission would also be completed without them having to lift even a finger. But Kim remembered what the major had ordered him. He needed to be the one to kill him, or there was no reason for the major to provide security to her girlfriend. As they were quarreling over who should be the one to kill him, the eldest son's security arrived there before they were supposed to. When they found out someone else was using the room they were planning on taking, they found it weird, because that room was the most expensive one. They found it very suspicious and decided to look for another hotel. They also increased the security level. At that time, without talking, they all came to the conclusion that the mission had just become impossible to do alone. At this point, it would be a war of information. They were thinking the same thing and saying the same thing at the same time, that they should work together. They made a plan with all the information that they had and decided to gather the next day at 2 p.m. The thing that they were more concerned about was the security. They had no idea who was coming as the security guards. The next day, all three of them arrived there 3 hours before the assigned time. They argue with each other about why they were there before the assigned time when a security guard spots them. But before he could even do anything, he was barraged by Hansu and Kim. While these two were busy dealing with him, Jinchul ran inside while screaming. All the guards were now after Kim and Hansu. Before they could take their guns out, Kim shot them with his gun. Jinchul enters the hotel and is welcomed with a punch to his face. This guy was from the North Korean security team named Dandelion, and his name was Mun TBM. Hansu was also attacked by someone skilled out of nowhere. The guy knew he was Hansu, the national medalist in Taekwondo. He was also from the security Dandelion. While the security guards were focusing on those two, Kim managed to enter the room where the eldest son was supposed to be. But when he arrived at the room, he couldn't believe what he saw. His wife was also there between all the security guards. She saw him sneaking into the room and told him to just come outside and that they needed to talk. The guard freaked out hearing number 73 was there, but he easily got rid of them and came down to ask her what was going on. He asked her to explain to him this well because he was not in his right mind. He was saying all this while crying. But before she could say anything, The captain of the Dandelion security came there and informed him that she was just a puppet all this time. The major used her to get to him and use him as well. The explanation was simple. To the major who wanted to start a coup d'etat, Kim was the best fit, because he was a special agent whose identity isn't even known. However, he needed a way to tame him, so he trained a whole village of actors, and for over half a year, he completely deceived him. The captain confirmed with Lim Yujin if he was really the number 73. After she told him that he was about to shoot her, saying her job was done now, and she accepted her fate without question. But Kim came in front of the bullet to save her. Lim Yujin was shocked to see him save her even after what she had done to him. Even Kim didn't know why saved her, probable because she was just a puppet that he loved. The captain informed him that she didn't know about the coup d'etat, and that was why he was going easy on her and giving her a quick death. Kim asked him if there was any way they could survive. What if he kills all of them and no one would know about his existence anyway? On the other hand, Hansu and the other guy from the Dandelion security were going toe-to-toe against each other. The guy watched all of Hansu's moves on television and says that his moves were only flashy. He didn't know the basics. He attacks Hansu again, which he blocks, only to be overwhelmed by his other moves, which he keeps launching again and again. The guy was overpowering Hansu in every aspect. He calls his spinning technique was just flashy, but all this talking made Hansu realize the basics of spinning. He jumped very high and spun a number of times in the air before landing a critical hit on him. With his neck down, the guy was down for good this time. Just then, we see Jinchul, who had picked up his opponent in the air, who was twice his size. He was someone who could pick up a grown fall with his hands being lifted by someone. Jinchul slams him on the ground, but the guy immediately got back up after feeling insulted like that for the first time in his life. On the other hand, after listening to Kim's bluff about killing everyone, the captain gives up on the thought of capturing him alive. He shoots him without hesitation, and more than once at that. The captain knew Kim could turn everything upside down because he had no identity. After he killed him, he gave the gun to his wife and ordered her to kill herself. She took the gun without hesitation and pointed it towards herself, saying if it was the order of the supreme leader, she would take her life without hesitation. But before shooting herself, she states that she genuinely loved him just like she was ordered. After saying that, she pulls the trigger, but nothing happens. The captain complimented her loyalty and figured she could be useful to him. Jinchul and his opponent were still going toe-to-toe against each other. None of the two were backing down. Hansu took this opportunity to sneak into room number 306, where the eldest son was supposed to be. But when he arrived there, he found the security captain coming out of the room. The captain started shooting at him without any second thoughts. Hansu asked him what happened to the guy who was inside the room, to which the captain replied that number 73 died with a hole in his chest. Hansu was confused because there was no way he could die with holes in his chest, because before coming Jinchul gave both of them bulletproof vests, and with that, we see him standing behind the captain. He snatched the gun from the captain and informed him while beating him that he had already lost a friend to them. He was not gonna lose his woman as well. The captain laughs at him, saying that women didn't know how to love. She was just a puppet. Also, they should have made a run for it when they had the chance. We see that there was more reinforcement. There were 76 more security guards from the Dandelion group, and on top of that, Jinchul was getting his ass kicked. His opponent was overpowering him greatly and was beating him brutally. He acknowledged that Jinchul was strong, but that was not enough to defeat someone like him. The guy even insulted his hair and his overall outfit. Jinchul was passing out. He met his idols while he was passed out, who couldn't accept that the rock mentality was being insulted, and Jinchul was the only one who could stop that from happening. That's why he couldn't lose just yet. Jinchul got back up and was more powerful and stronger than before. He started to overpower Munyeb. The guy could feel that he was not much stronger and faster than before, and right now he was being overpowered by a small fry like that. He knew that if he didn't put his guard up, he would die for sure. But Munyeb was someone who never needed to put his guard up against anyone. That's why his guard wasn't very profound. It was full of openings, and with his next attack, he managed to take Munyeb down. While he was celebrating his victory, he was surrounded by a bunch of guards. The captain was suggesting they surrender, and he might consider letting them live. Just then, Jinchul came screaming, asking what they did, because the gang from earlier was and they were looking for them as well. It was Hansu who came up with this plan. He dared them to come to this location and told them that his subordinates would be waiting for them, and that went according to plan. The thugs from China were fighting the goons from North Korea. Like they had said before, they were going to get out of here alive with the women, because they were not alone in this.